Hello, Fiedelbogen here. To my fellow workers in the vineyard worldwide, greetings. This is part 2 of a 2-part talk titled Turning the Tables Against Feminism. The first part concluded with a description of something that we call feminist subjectivism, a kind of mental illness or delusion which renders most feminists incapable of understanding how the rest of the world sees feminism. Now, it will suffice to understand that feminist subjectivism can't go on forever, and that the feminist regime which is based upon it can only culminate in violence and destruction. It is certain that feminism's house of mirrors will be shattered without mercy, but that said shattering will not go unaccompanied by a general shattering of everybody and everything. In short, it shall be a pandemonium from which none will find haven. That is, unless we take considered steps, and right soon, to forestall such an eventuality. Very well. The new recruit to our scene is at the very least not a feminist. That is neither asking nor expecting too much. I hope I have made clear by now that people other than feminists are permitted to supply a definition of feminism according to their own criteria. I say this simply because the objective reality of feminism is as real as the subjective reality of it, because that objective reality is knowable only by an objective seer who walks an objective path of knowledge. And finally, because the feminists themselves, of all people on earth, are the least amenable to such a path. To suggest that we are misrepresenting feminism is itself a misrepresentation. We are not misrepresenting feminism, we are re-representing it. It is our weighty conclusion that the feminists themselves cannot be trusted to represent feminism accurately beyond the limits of their own sector. I mean that while the feminist word about feminism is undoubtedly true within the moral gravity well of the feminist sector, it merits no credence anywhere outside that perimeter. Such are the fruits of feminist subjectivism. Accordingly, what a feminist says about feminism, though it be the sweetest of nectars within the feminist domain, at once becomes the untreated effluent of a sewer when it overflows into the non-feminist sector. Feminism's writ does not run beyond feminism's border, and that includes both narrative authority and the power of definition. Again, feminism is not the world. And so you, my recently arrived friend, face a question that we all face at some point in our counter-feminist careers. You have confirmed in your own mind that you are not a feminist, and you now propose to sink operative roots in non-feminist territory. But have you thought long and hard about what it really means to be a non-feminist? Algebraically, what does it mean to be not X? Clearly, you must know the value of the term X, and in the social algebra which presently concerns us, you must likewise know the value of the term feminist, or more to the point, the term feminism. So, it is not enough simply to know that you are not a feminist. You must, in addition, have a clear, precise conceptual model of what this thing feminism actually is, so that X becomes a known quantity. And finally, in order that you will not be at cross purposes with your non-feminist cohorts, your conceptual model of feminism ought to bear a marked similarity to their conceptual models, so that you and they shall agree upon the value of X, and shall proceed, as it were, by an algebraic understanding of things. I go now to enlarge upon this. The non-feminist sector is populated by a variety of humans of both sexes, who cover the spectrum of human nature, and about whom no moral generalization is either possible or politically relevant. The non-feminist sector, or as habituated insiders would more tersely say, the sector includes folk who are in varying stages of political awakening. Some of them do not yet know that they are non-feminist. The question has not yet migrated to the forefront and become vital for them. Such ones are distinguished chiefly by the nascent elements of a worldview, which, if fully fleshed out, would urge some manner of political confrontation with feminism. But they haven't quite gotten there yet. However, there will come a time when the inert non-feminist turns into an activated non-feminist, or if you prefer, a partisan of the non-feminist sector. This is when confrontation becomes imminent. The partisan will gravitate toward the sphere of real-world practice and will need to direct her endeavor toward a target of operations, a defined region of social and political space. So the need arises for a pragmatic template by which to chart this defined region. And when all activated non-feminists have mastered this template, we may say that they have gained critical consensus, or more precisely, target consensus. The character of their separate endeavors may vary tremendously as per ways and means, but it is imperative that they converge upon the same target of operations with the necessary esprit de corps. Briefly, they must be completely unlike the blind men in the fable, for they must see the elephant. And that is especially true if they are working on different parts of the elephant, in which case they must communicate and coordinate. Target consensus is built upon a common understanding of what feminism is, and this understanding informs all decisions about what to strike and when and how. And counter-feminist analysis claims to provide the master template, the parting of the waters, the necessary objective vision of reality that will generate target consensus and render activated non-feminist projects operable. The non-feminist revolution is every imaginable thing that is willfully opposed to feminism. It is found side by side with every imaginable thing that is simply not feminism. These two categories are both not feminism, but the former is activated, while the latter is inert, and the non-feminist sector is the territory which they cohabit. It is critical to understand that this territory is in no sense a movement, but only a container of everything that is not feminism, only some of which is presently trying to damage feminism. And the non-feminist revolution itself is likewise not a movement, but a motley, sprawling aggregation of separate and distinct motions that are sometimes aware of each other and other times not. However, these separate motions are in the process of finding each other and synchronizing their efforts. We call this a revolution because it serves to turn the tables, and if there were another word more all-embracing than revolution, we would use it. As simply as can be stated, the goal of the non-feminist revolution is to bring about feminism's moral isolation by driving a wedge between feminism and non-feminism, and by reducing feminism's presently vague and fuzzy borders to a sharp line that anybody can clearly discern. This will embrace a multitude of operations, both intellectual and political, and will prove fatal to feminism if properly carried out. The present talk does not aim to bring the newcomer to a point of target consensus. That is a task the learner must herself gradually bring to fruition in her own way. But I have posed for consideration in a merely rhetorical fashion the question of the learner's non-feminism. I have advised the learner to ponder what that non-feminism might actually consist of, and I have stressed the importance of aligning such an understanding with that of other non-feminist partisans in the furtherance of our work. The newcomer has likely heard of certain individuals known as MRAs, and been made aware that many of them, at any rate, have a rather piquant reputation. Well, as concerns these MRA people, altogether too little and too much has been said. But for the feminists, who are the dullest clods on earth and have no idea what is going on, the term MRA is simply an emotional lightning rod for their barely suppressed guilt and their growing anxiety about feminism's future. On that note, I conclude the present talk, trusting that the listener has gotten something of value from it. Fiedelbogen, out.